a 10 million naira fine for the first month and 1 million naira for every single month of default that follows. This is not a fine for a multinational oil corporation or a commercial bank. That is the staggering penalty facing a digital asset platform or P2P operator in Nigeria that fails to comply. You might be wondering, comply with what? Well, on August 3rd, 2026, the Nigerian Revenue Service officially published its long-awaited guidelines on the taxation of virtual assets. On paper, the guidelines are designed to establish a standardized framework for taxing crypto, regulating virtual asset service providers, and capturing revenue from Nigeria's booming digital economy. But beneath the administrative language lie provisions that have sent shockwaves across the country. To search the benchmark for our conversation here today, here is a summary of the new framework. A 1% withholding tax deducted from the total value for every crypto sale. A 1.5% stamp duty charge on token-to-fiat and fiat-to-token conversions. Direct token remittances requiring tax collectors and exchanges to remit taxes to the government in actual crypto tokens rather than Nigerian Naira. Mandatory tax ID for every single user as a strict precondition for activating a wallet. Is this the long-awaited regulation that brings legitimacy to the sector? Or is it a design flaw that threatens to suffocate a youth-driven digital economy? Welcome to Tax Cage. I'm your host, Hallel Reign. Today we are putting the new NRS guidelines on the gauge to uncover what they meant for your money, your hustle, and your business. Joining us in the studio today is a man leading the industry's response. He is a virtual asset regulatory compliance specialist, a cryptocurrency investigator, and the CEO of CBC Blockchain Services. Mr. Obinna Iwuno, welcome to Tax Cage.
Yeah, thank you, Rain, for having me here.
All right, so we'll dive right into the conversation. But before we do that, we'll go on a short break. When we return, we'll start. Welcome back. This is Tax Cage, and we are here in the studio with Mr. Obinna Iwuno. So to kickstart the conversation, Mr. Obinna, you are a regulatory compliance specialist in the virtual asset world. Now, when the guidelines were released, what would you say was your first perception of these guidelines? Would you say it was a welcome development, or would you say it is something that the whole virtual asset community has been anticipating? What exactly is your perception about the release of the guidelines?
Yeah, so my first reaction towards the guideline was relief. Now, that relief is finally crypto is now fully recognized by all sectors, right? Yeah. Because we've seen the SEC, and then next the CBN, and then there is now a presidential order, which means the executive, you know, and now there is the NRS. So it's like the completion of a full cycle, right? So it means that crypto is no longer in a gray zone in Nigeria. We are not going to be having issues of with banks, especially now that their apex regulator is the chairman of the Virtual Asset Council, right? So that was my first reaction, like, yeah, this is good, right?
So, but when
before we start looking into the contents of the guideline itself, because I know that is where majority of the question comes into, oh, what do you think of the guideline? Well, the first thing I think of the guideline is that crypto is no longer in a gray zone, right? It is now fully recognized, and that is a good thing for the industry, and it's also a good thing for our country. While that's being said, looking into the contents of the guideline, there is also mixed reactions to it, because from my own expert opinion is this: it is not that they taxed us, right? It is not that crypto is being taxed. It is what they taxed, and that is the mixed feelings that comes with the guideline.
Exactly.
Right? For tax, yes, tax is supposed to happen. If you do a business, you make profits, you should pay tax to the government. You should pay tax into the economy. All right. So that is a civic obligation everybody holds. Now, but when you look at the guideline and its contents, what you now begin to ask is, what are they taxing? And when you look at it, what you see is taxing the movement of money, taxing transaction, and not the activity. So it's like you are paying a toll gate for participating in the crypto space.
Interesting. So that means at first glance, it's a welcome development, but looking into
it's a very welcome development, the one that the industry has been looking forward to.
Exactly. I liked when you said that crypto has been in a gray area, but this guideline has put them on the spotlight. It means that it's something that the government is looking into, and that's something fantastic. However, looking into the guidelines, it seems like a lot of eyebrows are being raised. Now, speaking of guidelines, speaking of the guideline and the eyebrows that are being raised about the guidelines, here on Tax Gauge, we like to demystify, we want to break things down for the common Nigerian to really understand the import of the guidelines. Now, moving on to my next question now, speaking about the one of the conditions of the guidelines, or in the guidelines. So I'm going to create a scenario. Yeah. So let's have a practical scenario where we have a young Nigerian, a female, if you might say, young Nigerian who is a graphics designer, has done a design for a foreigner, and the foreigner pays her 500 UTSD for her job, right? And then when she receives that money, according to the guidelines, she's meant to pay a 1% withholding tax for that entire $500. Am I right? Right? Good. Now, in practical terms, how does this impact the crypto space?
Okay. So, from the scenario you painted, a student, a graphic designer, a freelancer, possibly, gets paid $500 for a graphic design that they did.
Yeah.
Now, when you convert the $500, it's below the 800K threshold, right? So that's one thing on the other side. But now she gets this thing in USD. She's supposed to pay a 1% withholding tax on it. Because she gets it in USD, there is the possibility that the rate can move against her. So if the rate moves against her, it means that she already lost money from the point she received it, from the value she received it, from the value she finally converted it. And then imagine that she's converting it at when the rate, after the rate has also moved against her. She's already making a loss, and then she is paying a 1% withholding tax. So this is not an income tax, because the tax is supposed to be on her earnings, right? Did you make income? That is what the tax is supposed to be. So, but when the person is already losing and also still paying tax, it's like taxing them for having an activity, right? It's like taxing them for participating, for choosing or using virtual assets as a mode of payments, you see. So that in itself is a bit of a challenge, right? Because it is supposed to protect them. But this time around, you see that it is not protecting them. They are paying upon their losses, right? So that is the kind of scenario that you are going to see. So, and it didn't ask, did you make money? It's asked, did you move money?
So that's
while you are supposed to be paid, you are supposed to be taxed for making money, but this time around you are taxed for moving money.
Okay, so that you're now touching the second aspect of this question. Still speaking about the 1% withholding tax, right? So the first scenario is someone who earned for doing a job, right? Now let's assume my brother who is in school says I should send him money. And I don't have Nigerian Naira with me, but I have crypto. And I'm like, okay, you know what? Let me send you money in crypto. And I send my brother this same 500 UTSD, $500 in UTSD to my brother. This same 1% withholding tax is still going to apply, right?
Yeah.
But in this scenario, this is no longer income. This is gifts.
Exactly.
This is gift.
And imagine that you send them their school fees in crypto.
Oh.
And you send them the complete amount of their school fees.
Oh. So that means the platform is going to charge, you still pay this same 1% withholding tax. That's what the guideline is saying.
So you see where the problem is.
Okay. Interesting. So, do you recommend that this particular 1% withholding tax stays on the guideline?
No, we would love to see a more I'm trying to find the best word, but this is it.
Okay.
The 1% withholding tax is not the issue.
Okay.
The issue is where the tax is being applied.
Aha.
The 1% withholding tax should be on the profit.
Okay.
It's for people who make money. When you make money, you do a 1% withholding tax. When you render service, you do a 1% withholding tax.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. So it's not supposed to be taxed on the movement of money. It's supposed to be taxed on service rendered, income made. Right?
Okay.
So that is what should be addressed.
Great. Fantastic. So in other words, summarily, what you're saying right now is the graphics designer should pay his tax because that's an income. But my brother who I'm sending money to shouldn't be able to pay tax for withholding because this is a gift, right?
The graphic designer who rate moved against has already made a loss.
Okay.
Because they are receiving this thing in an unstable exchange rate.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, but the question is, do you recommend that the person who is earning an income, like the graphic designer, pays tax or withholding tax on that income? This same 1% withholding tax.
If you earn income, you should pay income tax. I've already stated that clearly.
Okay. No, but I'm just speaking specifically right now to this withholding tax.
It's very clear.
Okay.
It's very clear. I don't know. If you've read the guideline, you will see it. It's very clear. The guideline is on transaction. Yeah. Withholding tax should be focused on withholding tax, on income, on earnings, on service rendered, right?
Fantastic. All right, so we'll just go to the next question now. Now, the next question is speaking about the another aspect of the guidelines, making reference to the 1.5% stamp duty. Now, right, if this stamp duty is something that we're used to in Nigeria, take for instance, if you want to make a transfer in your normal conventional bank app, you pay stamp duty once it's above 9,999 Naira, right? You pay stamp duty, but the stamp duty is just the highest you pay for stamp duty in when you're transferring in the bank is 50 Naira. But now, coming to the crypto space, we are seeing a whooping 1.5%. What do you have to say about this? And what is the impact or the import?
Your question already has the answer in it. Is 50 Naira 1.5% of 10,000?
No.
So the question answers itself. The 1.5% is like 30 times higher than the existing stamp duty. So the real question here is, why does the virtual asset space have a different rate for each stamp duty against what is being applied for doing the same thing? Because if you transact 1 million with virtual assets, it's the same thing as 1 million through the
conventional bank,
Naira. Yeah, so it's the same thing. So why are there two different rules?
So in other words, stamp duty should stay, but the rates should be reconsidered.
I am not the one deciding that, right? It is the NRS responsibility to. I'm not the one deciding that. I'm not the chairman of the NRS.
No, but I'm asking you as a regulatory compliance specialist that you are. I just want to know, what is your recommendation in regards to most of these stipulations in the guideline?
See, it's not about our recommendation. This is something I've repeated over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Right.
And I want you to repeat it again.
It is left for the NRS to look into it.
Mr. Obinna, and I want you to repeat it again here on Tax Gauge.
But I've repeated it here like 3 times already.
Okay.
Yes. I've repeated it like 3 times already.
All right, that's fine. All right, this is Tax Gauge, and I remain your host, Hallel Reign, and we have with us here in the studio, Mr. Obinna Iwuno. We'll go on a short break right now. When we return, we'll dive more into the guidelines to understand other aspects of the guidelines. We'll be right back. This is Tax Gauge, and I remain your host, Hallel Reign. We were having a conversation with Mr. Obinna Iwuno, who is breaking down the new NRS Virtual Asset Guideline to us, making us understand what it really means and its impact on Nigeria. Welcome back. Thank you, Mr. Obinna, for remaining with us. All right, so we're going to go now. I want to talk about something very interesting. It seems to me like this guideline, it's adverse to what is in the new Tax Act. What do you have to say about this?
Well, the guideline is not adverse. You could just say that certain parts of it are inconsistent.
Beautiful,
right?
Beautiful.
But it's not, because when you say it's adverse, it means that the NRS on its own now enacted an entirely different law that doesn't, exist, and use it to create the guideline for virtual assets. But yes, are there parts of it that are inconsistent?
Okay.
Yeah, there are. And all that has to be done is just to amend it and harmonize and realign it to be consistent.
Could you point out one of these inconsistencies, if you don't mind?
The structure of the guideline, for example, the stamp duty is on every transaction. So even if you are making $10, per month, if you are making $20, if you are making $30, you're paying stamp duty, you're paying withholding tax. Now, if, say, somebody is making $30 per month, if you calculate it against 12 months, the conversion rate is way below the average of the 800,000 annual income. And from what their own act says, is they are supposed to protect these small earners, right? These small earners are not supposed to pay. So, but if you are doing that in crypto, you are paying for every single time you receive this. So, where is that protection for that small earner?
Exactly. And you know the foundation.
So that's just one of them. Yeah.
And you know the foundation of the new Tax Act.
It is.
All right, go on.
Yeah, it's just not consistent with what is enshrined in their own act.
Yes, exactly. Because you know the foundation of the new Tax Act is tax the fruit and not the seed. And if this happens in the cryptocurrency space, that means the people that the new Tax Act was designed to protect will no longer be protected, right?
Exactly.
So that means everyone who is in the crypto space will have to pay tax regardless of their income level, regardless of the threshold that they are in. Everyone will just have to pay tax.
Yeah. And it's like you are experiencing this because you are in the, virtual asset ecosystem.
Yeah.
You're experiencing this because you are using these instruments. So it's not it's not consistent at all.
Wow. Interesting. So before we go on a short break again, or before we come to the end of this phase of the conversation, what I want to ask is this. It seems to me that these guidelines are seemingly harsh. What is going to be the impact of these guidelines on the Nigerian crypto space if it is fully implemented and adopted? What's going to happen?
We are hoping it doesn't get adopted the way it is.
Okay. But if it does?
I wouldn't say it's that it's outrightly harsh. No. I don't believe that the NRS sat down to create a harsh guideline.
Okay.
But there is a difference between intent and effect, right? And that is what everyone is trying to prevent here. The case of what could likely happen if this continues in the current form that it exists, and also drawing that from what has happened and been done in other jurisdictions that we could learn from instead of trying to test to see if what's worked against them is going to work for us.
Okay. So you made mention of jurisdiction. Which other jurisdiction has something like this happened?
Yeah, a lot of them. The one that has the most direct impact of what we are about to do now is India. And in 4 months, India experienced an 81% drop in its trading volume. The revenue being generated by the trading platforms themselves, and they saw a migration of 80% of their users to offshore platforms. They lost in the end, and they haven't recovered from it till date. Even after removing the whole thing, they still haven't recovered from it till date. So it is not something that we would want to experience because we have a stronger position than India, right? As at the time that India had this, they were not number 2 globally in adoption. We were, so that is something very, very important that we should take into consideration.
Okay. All right. So it's you've made it obvious right now that if we go ahead to adopt this guideline, a lot of Nigeria is going to lose its share capital when it comes to the crypto market.
We are not saying it is going to lose. We are just citing an example from what we have seen that happened to others who did the same thing.
Okay.
So they are just warning that, hey, this thing that we are about to do has been done elsewhere, and this is the results that they got, and we're saying, we don't have to get that same result. We don't have to wait to experience the same thing. We don't have to see the same, outcome. Kind of effects.
Well, something that is also interesting to note is Tax TV carried out a survey, and in that survey, one of the results we had is that over 79% of young people are actually going to move, like you have predicted, if these guidelines are implemented. So that's why it's looking to me like what happened in India is most likely going to repeat itself in Nigeria. But if it does it now mean that Nigerians wouldn't trade crypto again, or they'll just move their accounts somewhere else?
They're obvious. I mean, Nigerians are very
resilient,
crypto savvy.
Okay.
Yeah. So
resilient.
I don't think that they can really stop that, because when the CBN tried the same kind of thing in 2021, what happened was it gave birth to the P2P markets. So the users found a way to continue transacting. All right. So we don't want to see that kind of system, situation repeat itself, especially in this age and time where the global ecosystem has come to maturity. And we are seeing, a lot of institutional adoption, especially in the West. When you go to the US, Europe, Asia, you can see an increased rate of institutional adoption, unlike what you see in Africa and in Nigeria. So we don't want to be caught up, in that. Interesting.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Obinna, for your insights in this conversation. We really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
This conversation is not over. We're going to return, and when we return, we'll go more deeper into other aspects of the guideline, especially into the engine for calculating this tax, the US matrix. This is Tax Gauge. I remain your host, Hallel Reign. If you are taxing the movement of money rather than the profit, you aren't collecting a tax. You are collecting a toll gate fee on survival. Mr. Obinna has made it crystal clear that these guidelines are mathematically stacked against the digital hustle of the Nigerian youth. But the conversation doesn't end here. The Nigerian Revenue Service doesn't just want your money, they want it paid in actual crypto tokens. How does a government legally hold Bitcoin? We are tackling the reality of these guidelines in episode 2. I am Hallel Reign. Keep your gauge accurate. See you the next time on Tax Gauge. Meanwhile, follow us on all our social media handles, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and watch out for the next episode.